Brandon, do you believe everybody can speak whatever they want?
I think everyone should be free to say whatever they want. Very often they aren't. There are various different laws and restrictions and pressure is put on people not to say certain things. I think that's wrong. I think everyone should have the freedom to express themselves, even if their views are controversial or difficult.
One thing is controversial or difficult, and the other one is when you express hate. All in our social media, they have been putting more and more, let's say, breaks, so people cannot express hate. People cannot say on the internet, I hate, or in Facebook, Google, whatever, I hate Jews, I hate black people, I hate white people, I hate women. They cannot do it. You believe they should do it and can do it?
I believe that even hateful views should enjoy freedom of expression. I think even people who hold really nasty, poisonous, prejudiced points of view should be free to express those points of view because, firstly, because everyone needs to have freedom of speech. In order for freedom of speech to be consistent and real, it needs to apply to all people and all groups. And secondly, because it's only through hearing these views and knowing where they come from and what they consist of that we can really challenge them effectively and defeat them in the open sphere of public debate. I think censoring them just forces them underground.
But many times you can defeat them and you feel you defeat them. But when they express themselves, they get more adept. And then suddenly you have something like Pittsburgh, where there was a hate crime, coming and kill Jews, or you have crimes against Muslims, or you have crimes against many people because you let them grow. How to stop them? If you let them speak, they are going to get more adepts, or it's not true that. How to stop them?
I think censorship is actually a bigger problem for equality and fairness than freedom of speech ever could be. Because the problem with censorship is firstly that it deprives us of the ability to challenge these horrible, poisonous, hateful views. Secondly, the other thing about censorship is that it actually creates more and more intolerance. Because, for example, if you tell radical Islamists that it's forbidden for anyone to criticize Muhammad, or it's forbidden for anyone to be Islamophobic, for example, they will develop the point of view that anyone who dares to criticize their religion deserves punishment. So look at the case of Charlie Hebdo. The killers at Charlie Hebdo grew up in a country, France, where there are laws against hate speech, where there are laws that punish Islamophobic speech. So they pick up the idea that it is intolerable for people to criticize their belief system. So I think censorship is actually a more important facilitator of violence and hatred than freedom of speech.
Is there any country where there is freedom of speech of whatever you can say, for example, and that the crime is less? Is there an example in this world where you can say everybody can say whatever they want? England was one of them. But
yes.
Is there any country and you can say, is there not crime?
Maybe there's one country, the United States, which has the First Amendment and it protects pretty much all forms of speech. Most other countries, particularly in Europe, where I'm from, most European countries have some form of censorship laws against Holocaust denial, against hate speech, against racist speech, and so on. So there are not enough countries where freedom of speech is taken very seriously. I think as the West, and also the rest of the world, in fact, needs to start getting really serious about freedom of speech and recognizing that if we don't enjoy freedom of speech...
Sorry.
And we need to recognize...
Somebody who doesn't want you to speak, don't worry.
Censoring me. We need to recognize that, get serious about freedom of speech and recognize that it needs to apply to everyone in order for it to be meaningful.
But you said United States, like an example. And then you have Pittsburgh, you have Las Vegas, you have hate against Mexicans, against immigrants. There is many hate there, and many so it's not also that it can help that.
But I don't think we can blame those massacres and those problems on freedom of speech because, you know, throughout history, people have done bad things because they believed in the Bible. Or Charles Manson, the Charles Manson murders, he did them because he listened to the Beatles' White Album. Or the guy who assassinated John Lennon, he said he was inspired by J.D. Salinger's novel A Catcher in the Rye. what are we going to do? Are we going to ban the Bible? Are we going to ban the White Album? Are we going to ban A Catcher in the Rye? There are always going to be people who said that they did a terrible thing because they heard the voices in literature or art. We can't enact censorship on the basis of what some crazy people say.
Two more questions. One, what's happened when the people that it's speaking about hate or speaking about killing or speaking about anti-Semitism, it's a public person with influence, like a president, or like they said in the auditorium, Roger Waters, that he's very against Israel, let's say that's political, but he's against Jews, or Trump, or whatever. Venezuela saying these are bad, these are we have many in Africa saying that we have to kill other people. What's happening with that? Will you give them space in your magazine, in your website, in your media to speak and say them out loud what they want?
I think when political leaders make those kind of comments, when they say anti-Mexican things or misogynistic things or racist things or whatever it might be, obviously that's a problem and it needs to be confronted and challenged. I think the best way to do that is in the public square, is by confronting them, by disagreeing with them, by showing how they are wrong, by exposing their points of view for the prejudice that they are. And of course, there is also the power of the ballot box. We should organise amongst ourselves to throw these people out of office and teach them a lesson for the points of view that they have expressed. But if we try to censor them or restrict them from expressing these hateful points of view, what we're actually saying is we don't trust ourselves to deal with them in a democratic way. And that's the real problem. We need to be more trusting of ourselves and of society.
The problem is with society that it doesn't have, that get very easy influence.
But this is the problem. So what we end up saying is that these people are so influential and powerful and convincing that we have no choice but to censor them. That's a very cowardly point of view. I think the far better option is to say, well, they're influential, they're powerful, they are convincing a lot of people, so we have our work cut out for us, and we need to work even harder to ensure that our preferable point of view overrides their point of view. But if we try and do that through censorship, the problem is we will set a dangerous precedent where the government will have the authority to censor views it doesn't like, and everyone will live to regret that.
And the last question, what do you get about this debate after being here, hearing so many opinions? Did you change something? Did you got something else? How do you feel after this very interesting debate?
I thought it was a fantastic debate. It was incredibly lively. There was a lot of disagreement. There was some agreement between the two sides.
Yes, it was incredible that.
Yes.
Where it's a very thin line.
Yes, I think it was incredibly interesting. It was very nuanced. We got down into the depth of the issue. I didn't change my mind. I remain as firmly committed to freedom of speech as I was before I came here. But I've definitely developed some new ways of approaching the issue, some new arguments that I'm going to push forward in the future. That's the great thing about open debate. Not only do you give yourself the right to change your mind, but you also develop your skills and you get better at defending your own position.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.